Hi guys, welcome back to my XPS guide. Now I'm gonna review Soul Neo Fusion form. So let's start from his stats. So I can say his normal and brave shape form have different purpose. For normal form, he is meant to become human killer because he has 50% magic human killer, and for brave shape form, it is meant to be demon killer. And his brave shape form also has 75% LB damage boost instead of 50%. So yes, I can say his limit burst is probably better on his brave shape form, especially because it is only one hit, so you can use it as a finisher. And the great thing about his brave shape is he has 2 fatal damage protection. So his thrust ability also gives him 100% fatal damage protection when held above 1%. So normally he already has 5% fatal damage protection. So yes, it is pretty decent. He is quite tanky on some situation. And on the first turn, he gets quad cast. It is really important because his quad cast, like other Neo Fusion mage, is locked behind a setup. So quad cast on the start of the battle really gives him advantage if you want to end the battle quickly. So that's all about his passives. Now let's talk about his normal ability. On normal form, Soul is Chaos Wave Awakened Trainer. He uses Dark Element and he also can deal non-elemental Chaos Wave Awakened damage. And the good thing is on his main Dark Chaos Wave Awakened ability, it has 120% imperil. So you can easily imperil the enemy when you attack it on the same time. So you don't need to worry about this spell buff. And he also able to fill his limit burst immediately by simply using 256 MP. So if you want to make him LB damage dealer, you can do that. Okay, simply use triple darkness beam, and then on the last action you can use ability to fill your limit burst gauge. And not only that, he also able to give himself 3 physical evasion. So it is nice if he is the most fragile character on your party. And on cooldown ability, he has 300% magic boost. So wow, it's great. It is maxed immediately 200%, and it also grants him 6 turns quad cast. So on the first turn, he already has quad cast. So make sure you use this cooldown ability on the first turn to maintain your quad cast. And the good thing is the quad cast lasts for 6 turns, and the cooldown ability itself has 6 turns cooldown. So you can cast it every time you need it unless you die, of course. And for Grandis, it gives him 150% human killer for 5 turns. So you can use this 3 times. So I can say he has 15 turns to kill humans, which is plenty and probably enough. And for rotation, it is also pretty simple. On the first turn, use Blessing of Darkness to unlock your quad cast for upcoming turn. But if you are sure you're able to kill the enemy on this turn, you can simply cast 4 Darkness Beam on the first turn. Or if you fight human, of course, use your Grandis ability. You may say, what about his limit burst? I can say maybe this normal limit burst is not that great unless you're able to gear him. First of all, it is 24 hits attack. So you need to have a partner to chain it. But yes, maybe maybe the damage dealt on the last hit is the greatest, so you can care less about the number of hits. Not sure. Okay, and yes, I can say the damage is not that great because he only has 50% limit burst damage. It is on the minimum setup. Remember, I assume you don't equip any limit boost equipment on him. That means this LP deal 150 times damage. So if you do Quad Darkness Beam, you deal 284 times dark damage. So it is obvious which one is more powerful. Then yes, Quad Darkness Beam is better. But again, if you have the gear for him, let's say you able to reach 300% limit burst damage on his equipment or abilities, you can deal 400 times using this limit burst, which is better than your Quad Darkness Beam. So yes, it depends on your gear whether you shoot your limit burst or your Chaos Wave Awaken. But the point here is, if you want to use his limit burst, it is pretty easy because he can feel his limit burst easily, okay? So you can use it every other turn. So that's all for his normal form abilities. Now let's talk about Brave Shift form. On his Brave Shift form, he is still Chaos Wave Awakened Chainer, but the element is different. Now he chained with Ice element, and yes, I must say on this form he loses something really important, and that is the ability to fill his limit burst gauge to full. But on this form he gets 50% LB damage buff. Which one is better? I think if you have LB damage buffer on your party like Yoshikiri, then this change is bad. But again, if you don't have someone who can buff LB damage, this form is good because of 50% limit burst damage buff. And he's still able to give himself 3 physical evasion, so it's good. And another different thing is, on this form, he loses 300% magic boost. Instead, he gets 75% spirit break. Actually, it is not losing because yes, you can still use that limit burst filling ability and 300% magic boost on the first turn, and then shift into his Brave Shift form on the second turn, but you will waste 1 turn. And yes, on this form, he also able to grant himself with re-raise, but I don't think that's really important because he already has 2 fatal damage protection. But if you want to be safe, you can do that. But again, maybe it's better to let your support do the job instead of him using this, because this re-raise need to be unlocked behind a setup, so it's not that worth in my opinion. And for Grande's ability, it is also about the same like the normal form. The difference is it grants you 150% demon killer instead of human. So yes, pretty decent for you when you fight against demon. And this also deal Ice Chaos Wave Awaken damage, so you don't waste action without doing any damage, so pretty good. And for rotation here, I assume you want to make him into limit burst finisher. This limit burst is much more reliable in my opinion compared to his normal form because it is only 1 hit. So you can land this or finish using this attack easily. So on the first turn, you don't change into Brave Shift. Still on the normal form, you're gonna use Blessing of Darkness to give yourself 300% magic boost, and that's if you fight human. Of course, you're gonna use your Grande's ability to get that 150% human killer. And yes, the last action, maybe Malice Collection to fill your limit burst to full. So on the second turn, you can immediately change it to Brave Shift, but don't use your limit burst right now because remember, you need to imperil the enemy first. So simply use Devastating Blizzard to imperil the enemy Ice Resist, and then Frozen Impact to give yourself 50% limit burst damage. But if you already have someone like Yoshikiri, Neovision Rain on your party, then you don't need to use your Frozen Impact. Same for Imperil. If you have other characters, let's say like Starlight Elena, and not Starlight Elena cannot imperil ice, but yeah, any character who able to imperil ice element, you don't need to worry about imperil the enemy ice element. You can immediately use your limit burst right on the second turn. right? And on the limit burst, I must say this one is nice first because it deals 110 times damage, ice damage to be exact. So it is 10 times damage better than his normal limit burst damage. But yes, because he has better innate limit burst damage, that means he gets 125% with buff. Then he deals 247.5 times damage. So like you can see, it's better than his normal form. And again, if you manage to gear him with 300% limit burst damage, then yes, with 350% limit burst damage, you can deal 495 times ice damage, which is pretty decent. And remember, you can deal more than this if you have Yoshikiri, because Yoshikiri can give you 150% limit burst damage buff. And yes, he gonna be powerful ice finisher. But again, if you talk about damage modifier, then I believe you are agree that Ibara is better because her limit burst has better base damage than this one. And actually, I did a mistake on preview video. So on preview video, I said this limit burst also imperil ice resist. However, that's only applicable in the future when he gets X+2 awakening, if I'm not mistaken. But right now, it's only 110 times ice damage. That's why I said you need to imperil ice resist first on the second turn. So that's all you need to know about his Brave Shift form, I think. Now let's talk about equipment. For equipment, it is very easy. Focus on building his magic stats. Of course, he is a mage, but if you want to make him into limit burst finisher or even chainer on normal form, then you can simply equip him with limit burst damage boosting equipment. But because she is a mage, maybe there are fewer equipments which increase both magic and limit burst damage. Okay, for physical DPS, there are lots of them, but here we go. For weapon, it is STMR, Black Roselia, so it is Sakura of the Delta Star STMR. And yes, it grants 30% limit burst damage, so this is probably the best road you can equip if you want to make her into limit burst finisher. And for abilities, it is Heart Overcoming Hatred, 50% LB damage, and Lion's Heart, 55% limit burst damage. Yes, it is STMR, man, maybe it is not great value, but still it is one of the best limit burst damage boosting ability you can get. And the interesting thing here is Trance Power. Trance Power is really great ability. So based on wiki, you can equip multiple Trance Power, and maybe if you have 4 Trance Power, it's probably worth to make him into true dual wield mage, because that means he also gets 100% true dual wield on the process. Okay, so he gets 100% limit burst damage, but still maybe not good idea because Heart Overcoming Hatred and Lion's Heart are better in terms of damage boost. But yes, this is one of your alternative, the Trance Power. And maybe if you already able to max his magic stats, maybe you can even give him other physical, attack boost ability, which also has limit burst damage, like Courage to Move On, etc. And maybe you're wondering, what you put so many limit burst damage boost abilities? What about his magic and true double hand stats? Don't worry, because this is where Vision card comes into play, because remember that his Vision card grants lots of magic stats, okay? But yes, for true double hand, you need to be creative. Maybe, just try to maximize between true double hand and the limit burst damage. Okay, I cannot do that for you. You can go to FFBE equip. I simply point some equipments maybe that you may have, so you get the idea how to build him. And yes, with those equipments, he gets 190% limit burst damage. So on his brave shift form, he already gets 75% limit burst damage. So in total, he gets 265%. So yes, quite nice, I must say. If you have someone on the battle who able to buff your limit burst damage, he can become really powerful. And talking about that, let's talk about partner. So like I said, you need to have someone who able to give limit burst damage buff, and yes, Neo Vision Rain and Yoshikiri are the best at this point. And for Yoshikiri, it is even better because he gets Ice Imperil. So maybe you can use his limit burst on the second turn. It is faster setup for Yoshikiri. And yes, I really hate Yoshikiri on the past because yes, limit burst 150% limit burst damage only usable one times. But again, I think the game has changed. On the past, the battle is really long, but today the battle becomes really fast. So yes, I think Yoshikiri is a little bit better now in my eyes. Okay, so yes, especially if you use limit burst characters, then Yoshikiri is a good addition at this point of the game. But not sure whether in the future they're gonna back into long battle again. And for you who don't like limit burst, you can rely on Chaos Wave Awaken. So one of the reason is AoE damage. Okay, you can use Grim Lord Sakura Ibara as his partner. Okay, those are really powerful Chaos Wave Awaken trainer. They also able to use Dark Element, so really good partner. Okay, for Neo Vision Soul. Now enough about equipment and partner. Let's talk about Trial. For Trial, he is great on most recent trials, except for Scorn of Antenola. The reason is because his Chaos Wave Awaken are single target, so you cannot kill the branches at the same time. But still, if you want to use him, you can do that. But yeah, it probably takes longer because you need to kill the branch one by one instead of at the same time. Okay, so you know about trials. Now my conclusion for Neo Vision Soul. So I can say he is one of the most beautiful character on this game. What do I mean by that? Take a look on his sprite. Wow, it is pretty great, both normal and brave shift form. And if you take a look on his limit burst, it's even more insane. First, his limit burst is beautiful because it is CG. And even it is not CG, take a look on the effect. Wow, it is great. It is like half CG, half sprite animation. So wow, really great. Okay, and he is very simple and straightforward to use. Like you can see that his rotation is pretty darn simple. No need to be complicated. Quadcast strike on the start. Even if you don't do setup, you can immediately do powerful attack right from the start. And his breath shift lasts forever. So if you, let's say if you cannot use your dark element, the enemy weak against ice but resist against dark, you don't need to worry about him revert back on his normal form like Ibara. But again, like I said, this game has changed. Okay, I realize it right now. So the battle tend to be shorter, so maybe characters like Ibara are also okay with 5 turns duration on the brave shift. And yes, those are good things. What I don't like about him is, of course, his limit burst damage modifier is lower than Ibara. So I complain this because remember, he is released after Ibara. And yes, you can still argue with me. What, you are noob? He is pretty good. Yes, I said he's pretty good. So please don't complain nonsense on the comment section. Okay? Because yes, Ibarra is still more powerful, but again, I know the element is different. So unless you really care about element, if you love dark vision, you should care about element. Then I don't think there is any reason for you to pull for soul if you already have Ibarra, if you don't care about element. Okay, that's one thing I don't like. And for me, the Trust Mastery Word and STMR are kind of bad. So first, the Trust Mastery Word. So I have said this, it is like Carlet Trust Mastery Word. So I'm not sure, maybe they buffed this on the global. So some of you have told me about this. They buffed this Trust Mastery Word, but MP 30%, I don't think that's really important. I prefer like magic 20% or even limit burst damage 20% or whatever, but this one I don't think this is much change. Because tell me guys, is 30% MP is really important, especially when he is supposed to become LB finisher if you have the gear. And I believe even if you don't have the gear to make him into LB finisher, 30% MP won't help that much. Okay, I believe that if you use him as a mage, quadcaster mage, what you need is good support characters on your party, not this 30% MP. So I don't think this really matter. And for STMR, don't get me wrong, this is good. This, if I'm not mistaken, this is probably the highest magic rod on this game, 185, below Dark Gunbutane of course. But yes, like I have mentioned, Dark Gunbutane, most of you probably have that. If you are kind of veteran, if you do dark vision religiously, you have that Dark Gunbutane plus 224 magic. So if you have that, then I can say this one is not interesting at all, because the side effect, 5% MP regen, and if I'm not mistaken, it is 250% magic buff on the first turn. Remember that himself, Soul, able to buff 300% magic on the first turn. And like I have mentioned before, if you really want to make him into limit burst damage finisher, maybe it's good idea to equip that Black Roselia to get 30% limit burst damage. And most LB finisher probably gonna equip that road instead of this one. That's why I said this is not the good STMR. But that's just me. If you think this is great, what, 184 attack, really great, then use your trust, super trust Moogle to get it, okay? So that's all for Trust Mastery Word and STMR. For Vision card, I must say this is both good and bad at the same time. It is good because it grants really high magic. So with high magic stats, you can equip interesting abilities. Like example, I have mentioned that you can equip limit burst damage abilities. Okay, so you don't need to worry about how I'm gonna boost my magic stats. You don't need to worry. You can cover that using this card. And most mage already gets like 200% magic boost. So with this card, let's say Soul, he already has 330% magic boost when he equipped this Vision card. So only 70% more. You can get 70% from item enhancement, equipment like hat, rope, or even accessories. Okay, so good. And this also can be used by all mages, because it grants magic. So I admit I can say that I prefer Vision card that increase like true dual wield, true double hand. But yes, they are good, but also they are niche, because let's say the Vision card increase true dual wield stats. That means you cannot equip it on Soul because he is true double hand mage. But yes, I also know you can equip that Vision card true dual wield boost if you want to make him into true dual wield mage. That's just example, okay? I cannot remember if there are any Vision card that increase true dual wield magic. And yes, I think this card probably not great for non-veteran players. What I mean by non-veteran, if you are players who don't have like killers, limit burst damage, that means you already feel your abilities with magic boosting abilities, because let's face it, those abilities from Trust Master Reward for magic boost are easy to get, unlike killers or limit burst damage. Okay, so in that case, this ability passive is kind of wasted because you can only stack 400% magic boost. Okay, so yep, I think that's all you need to know about Neo Vision Soul. Thank you very much for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fun fantasy, Brave X Fierce Card. Bye bye guys.